everyone, and thanks for listening to BlockchainGamer.biz weekly news roundup. Today is Friday, the 9th of February. I'm your host, Jenny Jordan, and with me is co-host John Jordan. Hello, John.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Yeah.
Good. First of all, don't forget to check out our website, blockchaingamer.biz, and follow us on Twitter at BCGBiz, and connect with us on LinkedIn to stay up to date on all the latest news and relevant interviews and features in the blockchain gaming space. So this week we have seen Heroes of Mavia launching its Mavia token. So the game actually launched last week, and it's done great. It's reached 1 million downloads already, and you'll talk more about the Mavia token airdrop. Pixels has announced some sort of slightly controversial to some people of their members of their community anyway, that they are phasing out their previous Berry token to replace it with Pixel. And Pixel is initially going to launch on Binance. So they're starting sort of a build-up campaign starting today, and then it's going to be listed properly on the 19th of February, later this month. Block Lords has launched a Lords token, a game drop as they call it. So this initial sort of group has been aimed towards the NFT holders and obviously people who play the game. The Ronin network has announced that 3 games are going to launch on their ecosystem. These are all part of the Fight League IP. By Mixi and G Monsters, Japanese publisher and game developers, and those sort of there's been an initial title launched first, and then 2 sort of consecutive titles launched later. But Ronin is sort of generally on a big roll at the moment, and have onboarded plenty of these sort of well-known IP games, and so talk a bit more about that. And we have also had an interview up this week in John's podcast talking to Mythical Games' John Linden. So we'll dive into your sort of insights and lessons and takeaways from that interview.
Yeah.
Let's start off with Heroes of Mavia.
Well, it's kind of funny looking at the sort of the main news this week is very much playing into sort of crypto gaming, crypto sentiment, and certainly sort of crypto blockchain gaming as being sort of a I wouldn't say the key part, but certainly one of the sort of sectors that is sort of driving overall sentiment, which is something I thought was going to happen a year ago. So it sort of shows how much I know. But it's all sort of feeding into obviously Bitcoin ETFs alive, and Bitcoin price has gone through $45,000, $46,000 today. So generally, sort of people are being happy, and there's sort of liquidity in the market and blah blah blah. So if games have launched tokens sort of last year into a bad market and nothing really happened, but when you launch tokens into a sort of a booming market, or a market that's starting to boom, lots of things sort of happen. And I'm sure in weeks to come we'll be talking about more tokens launching, because that's just what people see. This is a sort of a window of opportunity for maybe the next sort of 6 months to launch tokens that maybe they've been saving up from last year. But anyway, so Heroes of Mavia is the one sort of the primary news this week. So it's a game that's been in development at least three years maybe. Vietnamese developer who they weren't a known developer, but they sort of, like a lot of these developers, were sort of functionally good at making sort of games. They weren't you wouldn't go to them to develop a sort of innovative new genre breaking game, but you go to them as maybe like a co-dev house, or can you make a get here's a game we're trying to make, how can you help us? So I think even they would sort of be happy to say that Heroes of Mavia is very much inspired by Clash of Clans. It is, functionally a mobile free-to-play strategy game where you build your base, and you create resources in that base. You build defenses to stop people attacking your base, and that's the sort of cycle you go through. So it's time-based. You have to collect the resources to level up your base, and as you level up your base, more buildings become available. And basically, you create resources that way. But the main way you create resources is going and attacking other people's bases and nicking their resources. So, very much sort of Clash of Clans from that point of view. And and to be that's a genre that's worked brilliantly. So why sort of reinvent the wheel on that? So the game went live on the app stores. As you say, it's had probably more now, but they sort of quoted 1 million downloads. So it's through typical Apple App Store, Google Play Store. And what's sort of interesting is they've there's no blockchain in there at the moment. So they have this in-game. So at the moment, it just plays as a free-to-play mobile game. They have this currency called Ruby, which is sort of not a cryptocurrency, but it's sort of linked to some of the NFT stuff. So that's sort of coming further down the line. But when you create an account, or when you download the game, it sort of creates a sort of account for you in the back end, or you can. It looks like if you've already linked an account, like your own wallet account to your game account that if you created before the game came out, it sort of links that as well. But the company who deals with their wallet creation says they've created over 400,000 wallets during that process. So anyone who downloaded the game, it sort of went through this weird sort of screen pop-up process where it created a wallet for you in the background and didn't tell you sort of thing. But that's how you can sort of see. They've had 1 million downloads.
Probably, and to be fair, it's probably more than that, but that didn't manage to do it because it has been quite an overwhelmed system, and so I didn't manage to do it. Actually, I tried. So probably there are, I wouldn't say hundreds of thousands of people out there, but thousands of people at least who've tried to do that and not managed successfully.
I mean, that ratio seems about right. If any friction in downloading free-to-play mobile games, people just like not doing it. So if you think you basically downloaded the game and then it tried to create an account for you, and it did warn you some screens were going to pop up, and sort of screens popped up, and I think in the early days they had problems with their servers. They were always down for maintenance. So if you think half of those 1 million downloads created a wallet, that's sort of pretty good. But then also the problem with free-to-play mobile games is, once someone's playing the game, like probably half of those people stop playing after in the first day. They just go, it's not very good. So it's sort of a good start for the game, but a long way to go. And they would say probably a long way to go because they've got all these updates and all this blockchain stuff to come in. So they're going to have loads of tournaments, and now they've got the token live. They can start giving away the token, I suppose. In terms of the token, so it went live and it's done phenomenally well actually because I think the first 100,000 people who downloaded the game from the app stores and connected a wallet got a token allocation, so basically free money. And if you'd previously had they had land NFTs that's been knocking around since 2022, I think. And if you had that land NFT and you had soft staked it into through their website, which you could have done for all of last year, they had 4 seasons of that. I know because I did it. Then you got an extra sort of allocation. So, it wasn't earth-shattering amounts of money, I think, if you downloaded the game, but you probably would have got a few $100s. What was really interesting is that some of these guilds had invested quite a lot in Heroes of Mavia from the last boom cycle. And so with a sort of rough calculation, I reckon some of those guilds were probably sitting on $500,000 worth, maybe the very top ones. Certainly some of the top 10 were sitting on 100,000, and some of them I think probably over $500,000 of tokens. So I was interested. I thought the token would be released, and then everyone would start selling, and the price would go down. And that's just a sort of a cycle we get with tokens. Actually, absolutely not happened at all. So the price just keeps going up. So now it's sort of $4.50, I think, from originally $1.50 when it first was being tracked. My sort of view was that these guilds were either going to sell all their tokens or start selling the tokens to get free money, or the other alternative was they were going to double down on the game because this was a game that they could maybe start to rebuild their businesses on, because it has free-to-play mechanics, and if they have all this land, that land's going to allow them to create a lot of in-game assets. That means some of their players can play in these high-end tournaments and win more. So it was sort of a bit of I was thinking a little bit of a sort of litmus test of whether these guilds. So when I say these guilds, people like YGG, Perion, Merit Circle, who are less of a guild now than they used to be. I think who else was there? Guildfy. And it seems like they've doubled down. I think so. I think they've not sold their tokens. So there's quite a lot of tokens that are being held, and maybe they are actually investing more as well. So it's been in every respect, I think the underlying sentiment of the market has been sort of the key thing, and probably other people who know nothing about the game, haven't downloaded it, just like, oh, games are big in blockchain now, I'll buy some of these tokens, or usual sort of investment. But it's all come together in a much stronger way than I would have imagined, and I've just see this token going up and up and up, which is nice for people who've got it, and I think good for the sector, I suppose, from that point of view.
Right, that's the thing I was going to move on to, because our next sort of things we're also going to talk about. So 3 sort of top subjects today are about tokens.
Exactly.
And are we sort of quickly falling into the trap, just because the market sentiment has changed, that it's all a focus on token and we are forgetting about fun games? That's what's sort of the big theme of last year. They need to be fun, they need to be immersive. But you have this sort of thesis that actually Web3 games can't just be fun, because then they are no different to Web2 games. Really, they have to offer these sort of other features. So can you sort of just unpick a little bit of your thinking around, is there a problem about such large focus on tokens, and do we then sort of neglect the games? Why can we not only talk about how fun these games are?
I was actually on a space talking about this this week. So
I know.
so that was about earning and fun, and I think both of those terms are sort of problematic, partly because they're very personal. So that can be geographic. So someone in the West will have a very different view on what does if they can earn $1 a day, does that move the needle for them? Probably not. Whereas obviously people in other parts of the world, and certainly younger people in other parts of the world, an extra $1 a day is clearly something quite lucrative for them. So there's that sort of problem. There's also the question of fun. I don't really like the term fun when it comes to games, because I just think it's sort of meaningless, and a lot of the time, I mean, fun is part of it, of why we play games, but most of the time we play games for other inherent sort of psychological reasons, often about challenge. So games are you never just go through a game and I've won again. People don't play Candy Crush because they win all the time. People play Candy Crush because they get stuck, and then and then when they beat that level, they're just like and whether they beat the level by spending money or whatever, or getting.
Well, I think it can be compared to sort of other entertainment. How we don't watch comedies all the time on TV, do we? Just to sit there and laugh and have a great time. We watch films that challenge us and that makes us think.
So I think I definitely agree with the thesis we've had in the past that blockchain games have basically all been about how much money can you make, and the game is sort of irrelevant. So I'm definitely not on that side, but I'm not on the side that you make games necessarily fun. So I think. So my view is sort of a little bit contrary. Go figure. What a surprise! Yeah, but so I think my interest in something like Heroes of Mavia, which I think is an okay version of Clash of Clans. I don't think it's nothing like as good as Clash of Clans, but nothing is. I think from a game design point of view, I've been playing it, and there are some bits that I would obviously sort of point out as they need to sort of rejig how the leveling system works and stuff, because they just require they're going to lose a lot of people. About half an hour into the game, they're going to lose a lot of people because you suddenly have to. There's a big step up, and they're trying to get you to spend money, I think. But and the other sort of problem is that I think they have like a lot of blockchain games is rolling out the entire roadmap where all this economy and tokens and NFTs and works. That just takes a long time. I mean, we've seen it. We'll talk about it a bit later. NFL Rivals, that's taken them 8 months to get. They're not even sort of there where they want to be in terms of having NFTs integrated into the game, into the way the economics work. So that's sort of the problem. And since you have a live token, then every day people look at the token price, and at some point the Mavia token price is going to go down, and then people start selling and it goes down a lot. So my sort of worry a little bit is, and I know people can't do this all the time, is that I prefer tokens to come out after a game has been live for a while. And maybe we'll segue straight here into Blocklords. The Blocklords PC strategy game, its token has gone live. It's called the Lords token, but you only get that token if you were playing the game. So it's been available for about 6 months from the Epic Game Store, and they had an airdrop. They've got 4 airdrops this year. The first one's just come. just finished, and people who played the game and had NFTs, and there was just obviously different sort of ways in which you earned that token. But that token isn't live outside the game. So it is as far as I understand it, it is a blockchain token. I'm not quite sure what blockchain it's running on, to be honest. But if you have that token, you can only use that token in the game, and you can either stake that token, and you can stake it for different periods of time, and the longer you stake it, the more sort of power it has in the game. But that token every day gives you this other in-game currency called influence. And then you can spend influence in the stores, and I think they have a deeper idea of how influence is going to work later on in the game. But you can't buy Lord's token. You get it through airdrops, and then you can only spend it in the game for another sort of currency. Now, clearly over time, the Lord's token in Blocklaws will be a proper blockchain currency that will be on dexes and centralized exchanges, and people can do all the stuff they do with it. But at the moment, it's locked within the game, so the only people who get it are the gamers. The only way they're being educated. This has value because it lets you do stuff in the game. And I kind of think in the long term, to some degree, block lords could make a lot more money by selling lords tokens on exchanges, because that's how you make millions of dollars at the moment doing that. That's why everyone's doing it. But by sort of nailing themselves to this token is secondary to what we're trying to do in the game, and that's very much their view. And they've raised $15 million, so it's not like they're in the sense they don't need extra money, I guess, but everyone sort of wants it. But that's what I like to see, that blockchain game companies who realize the power of tokens, but don't take what I might see the easy way out, the easy temptation for easy money early, because I think that just creates a lot of problems further down the line. So. I'm not saying Mavia is, I'm not saying Heroes of Mavia, is going to be a flop or anything like that. Clearly, you would say at this level, no matter what happens to the token price, it's been sort of a successful launch of that token. But I kind of think they've created. There are some problems that will come down the line for them. That Block Lords, I think Block Lords have started in the hard place, and assuming the game development works well and they can onboard people, then they have an easier way to create value for a token that at the moment has no value, whereas the Mavia token already has market value, but that market value has nothing to do with the value in the game. So you have a disconnect there straight away that they have to try and sort of make up. And I'm just going to continue again because I'm on a roll. I'm feeling it. And I think that also plays into what Pixels have done. So as you said, Pixels had this token called Berry.
Yeah.
And it was an inflationary token. So basically it went up. They just sort of created as much of it as they wanted, to use it in the game as a currency and rewards and all this sort of stuff. That's been out for a year. And when we were talking to Luke Barbakowski, the CEO, he was sort of saying, the Berry tokens really are a big problem for us, really. Sort of functional in the game, but it was live and people could buy it, and the price just kept going down because they were giving more of it away. And so basically what they've done is they've killed that token. So in a sense, they're sort of in between Heroes of Mavia and Block Lords. So they had a token that was live, and they realized sort of it was becoming a problem for them for what they wanted to do in the game and how they wanted to reward people. So they've correctly, in my view, taken the hard decision to kill that token. That token's dead now, and it's being replaced by the Pixel token. And if you had Berry tokens, you're basically being given Pixel tokens at a fixed rate. And now they've sort of, because they've had this couple of years a year of having the Berry token in the game and seeing how it works, they've then taken that sort of learning and they've built that into how they've put out this new token called Pixel, and they're so they're sort of they think they can create a better game and a better reward structure with this new token, which is a different token to Berry. Clearly, it's not used in the same way. It's not inflationary. They're going to use that in a different reward structure, and it's more of a governance token than a utility, I think.
Similarly, there to Lord's token, you will be able to, as far as I can sort of make sense of the announcement anyway, that will be able to use Pixel to purchase coin, which is sort of an in-game resource currency you can use for in-game advantages, benefits. So. Yep. So this is sort of similar to influence, I guess, in a way.
I mean, Block Lords is more complicated because it also has a token called Gold, which is, I guess, more like the coin. But it's good you pointed that out. So Pixels has also, in this way, got rid of a blockchain cryptocurrency and replaced it with a more sort of senior cryptocurrency, Pixels, and also brought in this new off-chain currency called coin, which they didn't have before. So they basically Berry has been split out into an off-chain and an on-chain component, which just allows them to handle that in a much better way.
And in a way, I would say that Pixel's team is kind of showing that things that you do in a blockchain game, it's been this sort of thing that whatever you do there, you can't be undone. And if you do a mistake, you have to be so thoughtful with everything. And I agree with that. But if you do something rushed or a mistake, it can't be undone, which they're proving that actually you can if you have got an open mind and if you're willing to I suppose do those hard decisions that might not please everybody, all of your sort of long-term supporters and community, but they're doing it for the long-term sustainability of the ecosystem and to be able to keep functioning and running as a team and developer. So in that sense, they're kind of proving that it's not irreversible damage done if you like to sort of use that.
Well, I think again, the thing about blockchain is it is infinitely flexible because it's a database, and you can just, as we see blockchain games move from blockchain to blockchain, they just reissue all their tokens on another blockchain. So technically you can do that. That's fairly easy to do. The sticking point becomes, can you take the community with you? And so you sort of putting that out a little bit. That becomes the harder. Technically, you can take any token. You could take a token from Ethereum and stick it on Sui or Wax, or no one does that for obvious reasons. But you could do that if you wanted to. But if the community goes, and we sort of sometimes see that with something like nothing to do with games, but the Doodles community was built on Ethereum, and then when they came to their customization stuff, they put that on Flow, and that was like a real kickback from the Doodles community who didn't want to be on Flow, and that's taken them a year to sort of rebuild that, at least in terms of the price of the token. So the community is sort of the tricky bit there. And of course, you'll always get people complaining. I didn't think many people were complaining too much from Pixels, because I just think they have sort of proven themselves to be quite open about stuff. So there was what I saw was people were complaining that the allocation of Pixel tokens, you had the sort of usual thing where the team gets some and investors get some and blah blah blah, and people were saying the gamers aren't going to get enough, but as far as I can see, the gamers were getting like 45%. So I think,
Right, we're going to wrap up. So, like we said, 3 games from the Fight League IP from the developer G Monsters in collaboration with Mixi are coming to the Ronin network. And in other Ronin news, the Run token was listed on Binance start of this week, I think.
Was it?
I think it was, yeah, and it kind of went down, was 26% or so.
But last week, I think end of last week, I think.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, didn't want to. We're not diving into that today, but we are going to talk about your interview, which you call sort of one of the best podcasts you've done. The most enjoyable is John Linden, Mythical Games CEO. So he's been a recurrent guest on the podcast. So talk us through why that was exciting, what you learned, what we can sort of expect from their games and the studio going forward.
Yes. No, I do. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I always like talking to John. I've known John since 2018 when we both got into the space. So I know him sort of fairly well, and I've had sort of fairly in-depth sort of just chats with him, really, certainly in the early days. I would say I don't agree with everything they've sort of done there, but as he's someone who's been in the industry 25 years and made Call of Duty games and stuff, so what do I know? He's raised hundreds of millions of dollars for Mythical. So it was sort of, and sometimes I find when I'm talking to people that I feel I know fairly well, I can be a little bit more. Aggressive is the wrong word. I can sort of push on certain points a bit more than if it's someone I don't know. So I enjoyed just the conversation was enjoyable from that point of view. As someone I know well, and I felt I could sort of push him when he said we've got all these wallets, and I could say, well, what are they actually doing those wallets? Blah blah blah. blah. So I enjoyed that, and because I know a lot, I play a lot of Mythical's games. I feel like I have a really good working knowledge of what they're up to. So that always makes it a more enjoyable discussion. And he's very, he pushes back on things that he wants to push back on. He's very, articulate and fluent. But the thing I like, also a lot of his stuff is very clear. So his sort of headline vision is very clear for what he wants to do. And his headline vision for blockchain games is gamers love playing games and love spending money in games and experiencing their games. And if you allow them to buy the stuff in their games, they're really going to like that. So Mythical has never been about blockchain first. They don't really talk about blockchain. Don't talk about NFTs really. They're not. They're not in that crypto space, which is sort of to some degree some of my criticism of them. That I think they could be a bit more engaged in the industry. But as I say, who am I to tell someone else to run his billion-dollar industry? And as part of that, he has been very focused on, if you want to go mass market, you go where the mass market is. So he's worked really hard, or Mythical Games have worked really hard this year, in the last 12 months, to work with Apple and Google to, go, we've got a game using blockchain assets. How can we get that through the App Store? What can we do? What can't we do? And I'm sure other people have been doing it as well. Obviously, Stepan, Find Satoshi Labs, were actually the first game out on the App Store using their own in-game currency to buy NFTs. But Find Satoshi Labs are nothing like as deep into games as Mythical Games. And I think so. Mythical Games, it really wouldn't surprise me if they are the sort of the primary company who are really educating Apple and Google in what this new sector's like, and how it's not scammy, or how it could be scammy, but these are the ways to stop it being scammy. And I think some of the key things, he said that we've sort of killed them with data a little bit, because everything they do, they look at the data and they go to Apple and Google are very worried that if you have a marketplace where I can just buy your NFT, then, and I'm not using the in-game sort of currency, and we just sort of swapping them or something, then Apple and Google are just like, well, I'm going to lose revenue from this because people are just going to be swapping amongst themselves, and they're not going to buy the NFTs in the first place, which is where Apple and Google get their 30% cut. And John was sort of saying, we've got the data, and yes, a lot of people initially buy NFTs off other people on the marketplace, but then as they get into the game more, they have they're better characters in this game, NFL Rivals. You buy better players in the game, so you're going to play the game more because you're going to win more, and then you start buying the in-app purchases, which is what Apple and Google want. So his cases, no reason to think it's not correct, that having NFTs in games actually makes people spend more money in other ways in the games. And obviously Apple and Google, in that case, I don't think Apple and Google religiously care about blockchain or not. I don't think they're massively into it, but fundamentally as business people, business companies, if they're going to make more money that way, then they're going to be, not maybe all for it, but they're going to be much more positive about it. And the other interesting thing is John talks to a lot of people in the normal games world. He was like a senior guy at Activision Blizzard working on some of their key titles. So he knows a lot of people in the game space, and he's saying, these people are not, they're like anyone in the world. They may have views on crypto. Most of them don't hate it. Most of them just think it's a bit silly, maybe. But once you say to them, and this is what he said, for NFL Rivals, 20% of the revenue that Mythical Games gets is just through trading, is people trading NFTs in the marketplace. So obviously there's a fee that goes whenever you list something on the marketplace. There you pay a small fee, and then when something's sold, Mythical get a small fee. It's actually quite a big fee. So like with OpenSea, it's like 2.5%. With Mythical, it's I think 14% or something. Anyway, so he's saying 20% of our revenue just comes from people trading. And if you go to any games company at the moment and just say, well, just allow people to buy and sell items in your game, and you can increase your revenue by 20%. Then he's just like saying, well, the games industry isn't really growing very much at the moment. So if you can sell people that you can over a period of years, you might increase your game's revenue by 20% by just putting in a marketplace. He says, well, they're quite interested in how do I do that? And it's not as simple as that. You have to maybe redesign the game. And
you could argue that couldn't be done without blockchain, couldn't you? Like trading.
Well, yes, you could do. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that you could just, and as we discussed before, Valve and, with Steam, they sort of do that. They do that on their own. You can consider that a private blockchain, I suppose, or something. But, CSGO skins is a $3 billion a year trading volume or something. I don't know the figures. So yeah, they could do that, but obviously it becomes if you can use someone else's infrastructure that's already there, then why would you bother setting up all your own data systems and worry about being hacked and blah blah blah. So we'll see. I mean, I think as ever, the discussion between me and John historically has always been he sees blockchain as like an evolutionary step for the games industry. He's just like, it's going to happen. Everyone's going to be using it, but it's not going to really going to have a big effect. I'm manning the barricades, and it's a revolution. We're going to take over, brothers. And maybe it's a bit of both there, but he's, he definitely just sees it as, I don't really care about blockchain. He says most people don't care about blockchain, John. They just want to. It's going to make better products and they're going to make more money.
Well, it kind of says that they will do, though. They will do at some point in the future. Maybe not right now.
Possibly. But he's just like, and the example we always use is Blanco because it's such a great game. There's these great little characters. They run around. You want to, if you can just own them and maybe take them to other games or something as well. This is going to want to do that. And for me, over the next 10 years, that's sort of what blockchain is. People just go, oh, who wants interoperability? And everyone has a very fixed view of what they think that is. But as soon as you have a character on a blockchain and it can go into anything, anyone can support it. It can go into any game. Your kids can make games around the things that they own. Anyway, we're waffling off the subject. So anyway, I would do if you it's my best podcast. So if you're gonna go and check that one out, John Linden, episode 155 of Blockchain Gaming World, on all the usual platforms. So yeah,
good, lovely. On that note, we are going to finish off for today. But thank you very much for listening. Thank you, and tune in next week. Yes, again. Bye bye.